Are you a fan of the NES classic StarTropics? Well, check out my new book, The Test of Island Courage, a StarTropics tribute. This book is a massive tribute to StarTropics and StarTropics 2 Zoda's Revenge. It has reviews, character bios, and the entire StarTropics 1 and 2 story as told by Mike Jones. So if you're a fan of StarTropics, make sure to get your copy of A Test of Island Courage, a StarTropics tribute today. Link in the description below. Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is StarTropics on the NES. Oh man, StarTropics on the NES, one of my absolute favorite games on the console. So I first played StarTropics back in 1992 in the summer of the 5th grade, and I was like, wow, this is like a modern day Legend of Zelda. So the story of StarTropics is about 15-year-old Mike Jones from Seattle, who's a pitcher, and he is about to go visit his uncle on Sea Island. But once Mike arrives at Sea Island, the chieftain says, "Mike, your uncle was kidnapped!" "No! By who?" So Mike must go down into the tunnels below Sea Island, and this begins the test of island courage. Now it's time to take the test of island courage. Every man must now go through this rite of passage. Down the hole we go and we begin our searches. Creatures all around, surrounding all the darkness. Come and face your fears. Confront them alone. Look on the way ahead. Your path will be shown. Armed with my yo-yo and star, my weapons will make sure that I get very far. I am not afraid. Deep into the depths I face the evil forces. They surround me but I'm armed with fiery torches. I attack them all with all my weapon sources. The more I fight them off, I reach the dungeon bosses. They tower me with fear, but I'm not alone. With all the fights ahead, my will must be stone. I now must give it my all. With this, all of my foes will now fall. The fight must go on. So StarTropics is split into two types of gameplay. You have your normal RPG overhead view where you go into towns and caves, and then after that you have the action parts which resemble The Legend of Zelda, but one thing about the controls in this game is, yeah, they're a bit sluggish in a way. Like, you have to really press down on the control pad to move Mike around, and this gets to be a problem during the heat of combat, but you do get used to it eventually, and you can only move in 4 directions, a bit slower than The Legend of Zelda, and you have to hop on like a lot of squares to find buttons, and then you find some power-ups. And also to defend yourself, the chief arms you with a yo-yo. Yes, a powerful yo-yo, which is one of the village's deadly weapons. So once you traverse through the first test of island courage, you go to your uncle's laboratory, and then you head off in the submarine with your navigator, Navcom, who looks very familiar. Rob, I think Navcom's like your cousin or something. So the next chapter begins, and then you have to help a mother dolphin find her son, and then you traverse around this island, and then you actually get an option for the submarine to go underwater, and then once you traverse through this cave, and you actually get the snowman, which is very, very helpful for fighting the octopus boss. So once you rescue the dolphin and reunite him with his mother, you go to the next chapter. So in this chapter, you go to the kingdom of She-Cola. Yeah, I think all the villages have like a cola theme in this game. You know, that kind of makes me a bit thirsty. So you need the assistance of the Queen of She-Cola, but you cannot get inside the castle, so behind the castle there is a witch who dropped her crystal ball in the lake in the ghost village, and if you get that crystal ball back, she can help you get inside the castle. And now this is where I feel that StarTropics really spikes up in difficulty, because once you go down in, the spooky village dungeon, there's all these invisible enemies that you can't see without a scepter, and in order to beat the boss, Maxie, the ghost, you have to have the scepter in order to beat him, and then once you beat that ghost, you actually get the crystal ball, and then the witch turns you into a girl, or gives you a really funny disguise. Hi everyone, my name is Mike, I'm Michelle. I am Michelle. Aren't I a lovely lady? So the Queen of She-Cola is so impressed with you, she's like, you know what, Michelle? Your voice may sound a bit deep, but you know what? I'm going to give you a new weapon, the Shooting Star, and if you want to get across, you have to shout abracadabra 10 times, or basically just jump on the platform 10 times. So once you get your new weapon, the Shooting Star, which can shoot longer across the screen than the yo-yo, the game is a little easier, but not by much, because you do need 6 full hearts to use the Shooting Star, and it's very, very easy to lose health in this game. And then after that, you visit the Mountain Hermit, who gives you a cure for one of the daughters of the villages you went to repair your submarine, and then you go on to the next chapter where you're swallowed by a whale! Oh no! So inside the whale, you encounter Dr. Jones' assistant, Babu, and then he's like, you know what? You can make the whale sneeze, but I dropped my lighter somewhere. And so you have to traverse inside the whale in order to get the lighter. It does take a little while, but it's not too difficult. Then once you get the lighter, the whale spouts you out, and then comes the pivotal part of the game that most kids remember. So, what's the frequency code? So as a kid in the summer of 1992, I actually rented the game. Yes, I rented the game, no instruction manual, just a cartridge, and I could not get past this part. Nothing. And this is before the internet, so there were no guides in Nintendo Power that actually gave you the code, so I actually had to guess the code. And for those of you who actually bought the cartridge in full back in the day, it came with a note that you had to submerge in water. I mean, you can go over YouTube and see, people's videos of submerging the StarTropics letter in water. And I actually guessed the code to be 747! Cool! I know Norm the gaming historian said this might have been an anti-piracy and an anti-rental measure, or it could have been just something that would encourage more people to actually buy the game so you get the full complete set, or it could have been something cool for kids to do, but we may never know. But it was a bit of a dick move on Nintendo's part because, they hated game rental so much. But the good news is, if you actually bought the Wii or the Wii U Virtual Console versions, yes, the help file actually does give you the code. Although if you were playing on the Nintendo Entertainment System online on the Nintendo Switch like I did, you're definitely not going to get the code, but you can just go online since this game is nearly 30 years old. So you begin the next chapter with a pirate ship blocking the way, and you have to figure out the puzzle of Captain Bell. So you have to traverse through the island, get a worm, then give the worm to Captain Bell's parrot, who gives you a code. Well, a code if you know piano, which I don't know. So once you go down into Captain Bell's memorial, you have to put in the code on the piano as piano keys. And just to make matters worse, after not knowing the frequency code, I do not know how to play piano. But luckily my cousin was with me when we played this game, and he was able to decipher the parrot's puzzle, and you're able to go down into Captain Bell's cave. And this is actually one of the hardest dungeons in the game because there's a lot of giant bowling balls that are gonna kill you. There's pirate ghosts where you have to get a mirror to deflect their shots against. But the good news is there's no boss battle, and then you go on to the next chapter, Chapter 6. Now, Chapter 6 is a pretty big map, and so you gotta traverse your way through this maze-like place, and Navcom is saying Dr. Jones's coordinates are this way. So you're kind of traveling throughout the islands, you get a heart piece, you get an apple, and then you see the remains of Robin Crusoe Cola. Ode to you, Robin Crusoe Cola. I will drink some cola in your honor. So once you reach your uncle's coordinates, you go underwater, and then you see this giant stone that you can't really decipher with 3 holes in it. I wonder what they are. So you're reunited with your uncle at last! Yay, my summer vacation is awesome! So Dr. Jones tells you, I was kidnapped by aliens! Aliens? Oh no! Plot twist! So Mike has to go into the alien spaceship, and the alien spaceship is also one of the most difficult dungeons in the game, because there's a lot of lasers going on. There's this boss that you can't exactly kill, but you have to make him fall down a pit. You have to destroy the main engine, which is very, very difficult. This took me a lot of tries. And then after that, you fight the mastermind himself, Zoda. And what sucks about the Zoda battle is you only begin it with 3 hearts, so you have to use the laser. And then after you beat Zoda the first time, you restore all your hearts, and then after that, you get the supernova, which helps you shoot all the way across the screen, and then you got laser beams and shit, and then you fight Zoda's true form, which looks like a gruesome fucking alien. Holy shit, yeah, this guy is pretty difficult, but not impossible. Just gotta blast him with the Nova Star and all your laser beams. Then once you destroy the alien spaceship, you recover the cubes, and you win the game. Then you're back on Sea Island, the cubes kind of form up, and then they're actually members of a lost alien race called the Argonians. So once Mika and the Argonians are safe on Sea Island, Mike celebrates the rest of his vacation, and you reflect upon how awesome it was. Although I do love the part where Mike puts the bananas in his ears. Oh man, so StarTropics on the NES, one of my all-time favorite NES games. Even though it's very, very flawed, I mean, I wish, the movement was a lot more smooth and a lot less janky, but it totally makes up for the really, really awesome story, the really, really awesome characters, and Mike Jones is one hell of an awesome protagonist. I mean, he's just a 15-year-old kid on summer vacation, but man, did he have the best summer vacation ever, man. Like, he's gonna go back to school and say, yeah, I went to this tropical island and rescued my uncle from aliens. Yeah, so what do you guys do? So you can get StarTropics on the Virtual Console, the NES Mini, and the Nintendo Switch online. But make sure you go online to figure out what the frequency code is. 747. Alright, so that ends this episode of Awesome Video Game Memories about StarTropics, but stay tuned for StarTropics 2! Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is StarTropics 2, Zoda's Revenge. Or is it Zoda's Revenge, StarTropics 2? So Zoda's Revenge, StarTropics 2 is the 1994 sequel to StarTropics. And back in 1994, most of us kids were already playing the Super Nintendo. So I unfortunately missed out on this game, which really sucks because I loved the first one so much. I mean, what the hell was I doing in 1994? Oh, I was playing Super Metroid actually. Yes, I still had my NES, I saw this game in stores, but being a poor 7th grader back in 1994, I had to decide whether I wanted to get StarTropics 2 or Super Metroid, and I kinda went with the latter. Yeah, and for some reason, I just never got around to playing this game on an emulator or the Wii or Wii U Virtual Console, and it wasn't really until after I played the original StarTropics on the Nintendo Switch again, I wanted to play StarTropics 2 in full, so I did. So StarTropics 2 begins 1 year after the original StarTropics. Mike Jones is back in Seattle, and his uncle is also back in Seattle trying to decipher the hieroglyphics that you couldn't decipher back in the original game, which was on the rock in Chapter 6, which was actually an escape pod for the Argonians. So after Dr. Jones deciphers what's on the hieroglyphics, so the hieroglyphics say that you had to find tetrads in order to help the Argonians find Mika's father. So Mike reads this book called the Oxford Book and then gets warped back in time. Holy shit, whoa! So rather than the tropical setting of the first game, Mike has to go through different time periods, and it doesn't really relate much with the StarTropics theme until the end. So one thing about this game right off the bat is, yes, you can actually move in 8 directions, and the controls are definitely a lot smoother than the first game, but not by much. I still feel like there's a bit of a sluggishness to the controls, but you'll definitely get used to it, and it's much easier to actually get used to it in the heart of combat, and you can actually start jumping around and change your direction mid-jump, and adding jumps in this game definitely adds a lot more challenge, and you have to be really, really careful in timing your jumps, because a lot of the times you might either undershoot or overshoot a jump, making you fall down in a pit, which really sucks. And also, one of the big differences in this game too is, yes, you do get your normal RPG, top-down walk-around screen, but there's actually a lot more action scenes in this game where you actually go down into the dungeons and fight enemies. And there's actually a lot of times in these dungeons you fall down some kind of imaginary pit and then you have to crawl yourself all the way back up again. So the first time period you go back to is the Ice Age, where you do have to fight the evil monster Yum Yum, and you do get an axe to help you, so this is kind of your default weapon at first. But luckily Yum Yum is not too difficult, you beat him and you get the first tetrad. Or depending on which version of the game you're playing, if you're playing on one of the virtual consoles, it's going to be called a puzzle piece, mostly because Nintendo lost the rights to Tetris many, many years ago, so they can't use tetrads anymore. So the next time period you go to is Ancient Egypt, and you actually encounter Cleopatra, who wants a pizza. You have pizzas here in Ancient Egypt? Cool! And so once you find the pizza guy who is actually riding on a Koopa Troopa, Now that is awesome. You actually have to go into the pyramid, but you can't exactly go into the pyramid yet until you get the shockwave. So in this game, you actually get two types of weapons. You get your normal bladed weapons, and then you actually get the shockwave weapons. And the shockwave weapons are the ones you can fire much longer, and they actually do require a specific amount of life to get. And throughout the game, you'll get more powerful shockwaves that can, fire halfway across the screen and all the way across the screen. So once you traverse through this really annoying maze to get the first shockwave, you go down into the temple, and then you get the next tetrad, and then you go on to the next time period. So in the next time period, you go back into London, and you have to help Sherlock Holmes solve a mystery. And this is actually where you go down into the sewers with all the giant rats, and then you actually encounter Zoda again. Zoda is back, and he's definitely a lot more difficult than he was in the first game, and you have to fight Zoda multiple times in this game. So once you help Sherlock Holmes solve the mystery, you get the tetrad, and then after that you go to the Wild Wild West. Yeehaw, Mock the Cowboy! So in the Wild Wild West, you actually have to get some dynamite in order to find a cave, and then once you get down into the cave, you have to fight a whole bunch of ghost miners, and then you have to fight the big boss, the ghost miner, ghost boss dude. Yeah. So once you beat him, you get the next tetrad and go into the next time period. So in the next time period, you're in Renaissance Italy, where you have to help Leonardo da Vinci, and he gives you a katana. Yes, a katana. I think this should have been more feudal Japan, but Leonardo da Vinci giving you a katana is like Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles. Oh, I should have figured that out years ago. But then once you get the tetrad from here, you go down into Transylvania. Ooh, the spooky house. Kind of reminds me of Maxie the Ghost from the first game. And then you have to fight another form of Zoda, which is pretty difficult to beat. But once you beat him, you get the next tetrad. And then you go into medieval times to help King Arthur. And you are Sir Mike of the Round Table. And this is where I feel that the difficulty of the game definitely spikes up a bit, because this night boss on the conveyor belt is really fucking difficult, and I actually beat this guy by luck. I have no idea how I did it, because I kept dying to this motherfucker all the fucking time. So finally, once you get all the tetrad pieces, you have to go back to Sea Island, where everybody is turned into a pig. But once you're in the village, you go back down into the first dungeon from the first game, ready once again to face the test of island courage. Back into the depths to test my island courage. I return much stronger now to fight the scourges. All the things I faced have made me bold and fearless. Now it's time for me to show them I can do this. Come and face me now, things are not the same. Now it is time to fight, this is not a game. Armed with my shockwave and sword, it is time now for me to face all the hordes. I am not afraid. As I travel from this book, I go back in time. Searching all around the world, I stop Zoda's crimes. Finding all the tetrads scattered through the ages. I complete the chapters in my story's pages. Now, time to end this fight, going throughout time. The final battle starts, my life's on the line. Zoda and his forces are here. Time to show them that I have nothing to fear. Time to end this game. So what's really cool about this, yes, they play a remix of the dungeon theme from the first game, and the layout of the dungeon is pretty much exactly the same, although you do get 8 directional movement now, and then you have to fight the skeleton of the sea serpent, and then after you beat that thing, yeah, begins probably the hardest part of the game, is the massive boss gauntlet. So you have to fight every single boss from every single time period, but thank God you do not have to fight that fucking ghost knight. Ugh. So what really sucks about this part is, if you lose once, you have to start all the way over again, but they do give you like 2 potions before you start over and full health. But yeah, this was a bit unforgiving, and I imagine if I played this back in the day, I probably would not have gotten past this part. And yes, the final battle with Zoda is definitely much harder than it was in the original game. But then once you beat him, you actually get all the tetrads back, and then you free Mika's father, the king of the Argonians, and then they go back into their home in space. Thus ending StarTropics 2. It's a good game, but I don't think it's as memorable or as good as the first one. And one thing about this game that I really didn't like is, yes, you do get better movement and response time, but once you get hit by an enemy, you get hit repeatedly, you don't get any invincibility, and even the most normal of enemies can really kill you. And this really makes it a problem when you fight the bosses, because the bosses can just drain your health like that. But the good thing about this game is they actually give you a lot more potions, which really helps. And they also give you better default weapons. I mean, even if you run out of hearts to use the shockwaves, you do get the katana, which is really good, which actually does go a pretty good length across the screen. I would say probably the majority of StarTropics 2 is a lot easier than StarTropics 1, but by the time you reach the final boss gauntlet, that's when it gets really difficult. And honestly, I don't like the story as much in this game, because I do prefer, the tropical island setting with the alien spaceship, rather than going back in time and stuff like that. Yeah, and honestly, I think this game would have fared way better on the Super Nintendo. They probably could have tightened the controls better, made the graphics better, and most of us kids were playing on the Super Nintendo anyways. It probably would have made more sense to release it on the Super Nintendo, and sadly, it's been over 20 years and we have not gotten any new StarTropics games ever since. And it's kind of weird, both this game and the first one were never released in Japan, even though they were developed by Nintendo of Japan. But nevertheless, at the time of this video recording, me and many other fans are still wishing for more StarTropics games. So you can get StarTropics on the Nintendo Virtual Consoles and hopefully on Nintendo Switch Online in the future. Or if you're watching this video in the future, it's probably already available. Alright guys, so that ends this episode of awesome video game memories about StarTropics 2. It's a good game, but not as good as the first one, but I do recommend you play it. Hey everybody, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, especially subscribe, and make sure to click on that notification bell so you know when we release new videos, because YouTube's probably not going to tell you. And if you want to see me play games live, make sure to follow me at twitch.tv/BattleGeekPlus, and if you have a Twitch Prime account, make sure to subscribe so you can get awesome perks like subscriber badges and much more. And if you want to support us, make sure to support us on patreon.com/Ryan Molina, because every dollar helps me bring you a better show. And also make sure to follow me on Twitter at @ThatRyanMolina and at BattleGeekPlus. And also make sure to check out the official Battle Geek Plus website for a complete listing of our books, merchandise, t-shirts, and a lot more. Alright, thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out these other videos right here. Thanks and take care.